Look, I believe from an interview I saw with Frank Owen that submariners are trained that in a submersible or a submarine that is not functioning, that the sounds do travel very well underwater. And this is evident that all the navigation and communication systems are based on acoustics. I believe that routine may be practiced because one of the occupants is a naval submariner. And if it is routine, it's very likely that the sounds are coming from that sub.
Yeah. You know, there's been a lot of criticism in the last day or so about the lack of safeguards, safety problems. One expert left his job at Ocean Gate because of these concerns. From your observations and what you know about the submersible, do you think they took the right precautions?
It's a very difficult one. I suppose on limited budgets, to aim at meeting compliance with certain specifications that are just set by individual companies. There are a number of these companies that do set these rules or guidelines to build submersibles. These stem from the same organisations that set rules for shipping, for cargo ships. So if you're building a submersible, it's very hard to apply rules that may apply to a cargo ship. But these organisations are open to discussion, open to new technologies, and they do welcome new innovations and adjust their regulations accordingly. So there's one argument that they are very hard to meet, but you can negotiate. That you can, if you prove that you are safe, consider the risks, present the risks, they can be accepted as part of the standards.
Yeah, so there's not necessarily one given standard, which is probably one of the problems. You know, when you were building the Deepsea Challenger for James Cameron, it was a private enterprise. What for you were the non-negotiables when you were coming up with that vessel, that capsule?
Yeah, we're very insistent that the pressure hull that James Cameron was going to sit inside of would meet compliance, and we aimed at meeting. We actually used Australian standards. At the time, they were the most updated standard worldwide, which meant, but that gave us the leeway to use a lot of modern technologies like finite element analysis in determining if a submersible would be safe. So we in fact aimed at meeting Australian standards, and that Bureau Veritas were also approved the design.
Mm-hmm. You went in the Deepsea Challenger yourself. Give us a sense of what it might be like under the water, potentially losing power in this circumstance. If we're still hearing them, potentially they are still alive and still breathing and still using the oxygen that's on board.
Yeah, look, little submersibles are quite different to a large submarine. They can tend to be hot and stuffy on the surface when you're in the tropical sun. The sun's beating down on the deck of a ship. You haven't been launched yet. You're not in the cool ocean water. So it gets incredibly hot. When it's launched, it's quite a relief, in fact, that the vessel starts to cool down. But when you start diving, the ocean temperatures are around, on the seafloor, around 2 degrees centigrade. So it starts to get quite cold. We were fortunate. We had a large 4K camera. We used to call it the furnace, and it would keep us nice and cozy warm inside of our submersible. But if you're in a larger space, maybe with 5 occupants, such as Titan, look, there may be a little bit of accumulative warmth because of body heat. But still, I would imagine it will get very cold.
Yeah. And could that become a problem if they are, as you suspect, might be on the sea floor? Could that become a problem for them even if they still do have oxygen?
Look, I think hypothermia is always a case. We had actually heated garments, electrically heated garments. But if you don't have power, then they may not have had electrically heated garments. They would be relying on warm clothing and/or emergency sleeping bags. We certainly carried an emergency sleeping bag in our small space that we had. It's much smaller than Titan, but still we had it for such emergency.
Yes. How optimistic are you that they are going to be found? I mean, it's a white craft that might be hard to identify and perhaps, I imagine, hard to find if it's still underwater.
It's going to be, quite difficult. At first, they'll have to, work on the location of the sounds, minimise the search area. They'd have to get an ROV or a vehicle to that depth. I'm hoping that there are such vehicles on the way to the site. I believe the US Defence or Navy have assets that can be deployed at short notice. Look, I think the clock is ticking. They've got a limited amount of time to be located. I wouldn't say the oxygen runs out in 40 hours or however many, 30 hours now. If they rest, they're not panicked. They settle down, they conserve, they minimise their breathing rate just by being calm, staying warm. They could probably extend that period. They're also a little reliant, or also very reliant, on the ability of the the CO2 scrubbers that remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. If the carbon dioxide level builds up, you can start to get headaches, feel nausea, and other symptoms will take control. So hopefully that the CO2 is being scrubbed and the oxygen supply will last a little bit longer than they hoped.
Yeah. Ron, really good to talk to you and get some your expertise and your experience on this and your reflections. Thank you so much.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.